They said he was dangerous. They said the estate was cursed. They didn't say I was the price. My name is Alara Vance, and the day my father died, I became currency. Not a daughter, not a person, just a debt to be collected by a man I'd never met, Duke Rowan Blackthorn, a name whispered like a threat in every town from here to the capital. I thought I knew what rock bottom looked like. I was wrong. This is the story of how I was sold, survived, and fought back against a world that wanted me broken. Stay with me until the end. Hit that like button and comment what city you're watching from. I want to see how far this story travels. The rain came down like nails. I stood in the back of the wagon, hands bound, dress soaked through, watching the estate rise from the mist like something out of a fever dream. Blackthorn Manor wasn't just old, it was dying. Stone walls streaked with water damage, windows dark as empty eye sockets, iron gates rusted half open and stuck that way. The kind of place that made you wonder if anyone inside was still breathing. Move. The guard's voice was flat, bored. He'd done this before. I stumbled forward, boots squelching in mud. My wrists ached where the rope bit in. 3 days on the road, and not once had they untied me. Not to eat, not to sleep. Not even when I'd begged to relieve myself, and they just laughed and told me to hold it. Apparently, collateral doesn't get dignity. The wagon rolled away before I'd even reached the steps. I stood there shivering, staring up at the massive oak doors. They were scarred, gouged deep in places like something had tried to claw through from the inside. Above them, carved into the stone lintel, was a phrase in old script I couldn't quite read. It looked like a warning. The door opened, not all the way, just enough for a woman to slip through, middle-aged, rail-thin, face like she'd been chewing on something bitter for years. Her eyes swept over me, cataloging every bruise, every rip in my dress, the way my hair hung in wet ropes down my back. "You're the Vance girl." It wasn't a question. "I'm Alara Vance," I said, trying to sound like I still had a spine. "And I'd like to speak to, he'll see you when he's ready. Inside." She turned and walked back into the darkness without checking if I followed. I did. What choice did I have? The entry hall smelled like wet stone and something else, something sharp and medicinal that burned the back of my throat. My footsteps echoed on marble that might have been white once but had dulled to the color of old bones. The woman didn't look back, just led me through a maze of corridors lined with portraits so old the faces had gone gray and featureless. Every few feet, I noticed details that told stories. A crack in the wall patched with mismatched plaster, a chandelier missing half its crystals, sconces that should have held candles but stood empty. This wasn't just an old estate. This was a place hemorrhaging money. Somewhere deeper in the house, I heard voices. A man's, low and urgent. A woman's, high-pitched and frantic, words tumbling over each other too fast to understand. Then a crash. Glass breaking, something heavy hitting the floor. The thin woman didn't even flinch. "Wait here," she said, stopping in front of a heavy wooden door. She knocked twice, listened, then disappeared inside without another word. I stood in the hallway, dripping, shaking, trying not to think about the fact that I was miles from anywhere, in a house where things crashed in the middle of the day and no one seemed to care. Trying not to think about the contract my father had signed. In the event of his death, his firstborn daughter shall be delivered to Blackthorn Manor as payment in full, like I was livestock. Like I was nothing, my father. The man who'd gambled away everything we had, who'd smiled and promised things would get better right up until the fever took him, who'd never once mentioned that he'd signed away his only daughter like she was a piece of furniture. I'd cried for him. Stupid, really. The door opened again. Inside. I stepped through. The room was bigger than our entire house had been. Bookcases climbed to the ceiling, shelves sagging under the weight of old volumes with cracked spines. A fireplace big enough to roast a whole pig sat cold and empty, ash from the last fire still scattered on the hearth. And behind a desk, the size of a merchant's cart, sat a man who looked like he'd been carved out of the same stone as the manor itself. Duke Rowan Blackthorn. He didn't stand when I entered. Didn't even look up at first. Just kept writing, the scratch of his pen loud in the silence. Dark hair, longer than was fashionable, pushed back from a face all sharp angles and hard lines. He wore black, Of course he did. And the cut of his coat said money, even if the fraying at the cuffs said it was money from a long time ago. When he finally raised his eyes, I felt the weight of them like a physical thing. Gray, cold, assessing. Miss Vance. His voice was low, controlled. No warmth in it. You're late. I was brought here in chains, I said. My voice came out steadier than I expected. I didn't exactly set the schedule. Something flickered in his expression. Surprise, maybe. Or irritation. Hard to tell. Your father's debt to this estate totaled 8,000 marks, he said, setting down the pen with careful precision. Gold, goods, and interest compounded over 7 years. He defaulted. He died. The debt passed to you. I didn't sign anything. He did. On your behalf, it's legal. Legal doesn't make it right. No, he agreed, and there was something in the way he said it, tired, resigned, that made me think he'd had this argument with himself more than once. It doesn't. He stood then, and I realized how tall he was. 6'3", maybe 6'4". Not bulky, lean like someone who'd learned to survive on less. He moved around the desk, each step deliberate, and stopped a few feet away. Close enough that I could see the scar that cut through his left eyebrow, the dark circles under his eyes, the way his jaw was set like he was grinding his teeth. You have 2 options, he said. You can fulfill the contract, which requires you to marry me within 30 days and remain here as Duchess of Blackthorn, or you can be turned over to the magistrate, charged with debt evasion, and spend the next decade in a labor camp paying off what's owed. Your choice. My chest tightened. That's not a choice. It's the only one you have. I wanted to scream, to hit him, to run. But there was nowhere to go. No one waiting for me back in the city. My father was dead. My mother had been gone for years, walked out when I was 12 and never looked back. I had no siblings, no relatives who'd claim me, nothing but the clothes on my back and a debt I didn't even know existed until 3 days ago. Why? The word came out raw. Why do you need a wife? Why not just take the loss, write off the debt, move on? For the first time, something almost human crossed his face. Something tired. Bush! 'Cause the contract my father made with yours wasn't about money, he said quietly. It was about survival. This estate is bound by old agreements, very old, that require a married heir to maintain control. Without that, everything here collapses. The land, the tenants, the people who depend on this place. He paused. So yes, Miss Vance, I need a wife. I need you. And before you ask, yes, I've tried finding someone else. No one wants to marry into a dying estate run by a man half the county thinks is dangerous. Are you? I asked. Dangerous? He looked at me for a long moment. Yes. At least he was honest. I want terms, I said. He raised an eyebrow. You're not in a position to negotiate. Then you're not in a position to have a cooperative wife. I crossed my arms, even though I was still dripping on his carpet and probably looked like a drowned cat. I'm not a servant. I'm not property. If I'm going to be stuck here, if I'm going to marry you, I want freedom inside the estate. I want access to the books, to the staff, to whatever the hell is actually going on in this place. And I want a room with a lock. A pause. Then, to my shock, he nodded. Agreed. Anything else? If I find a way to pay off the debt, I'm free to leave. Done. And I want to know what you're so afraid of. His jaw tightened. That's not part of the deal. Then maybe we don't have one. The silence stretched. Somewhere in the house, I heard that high-pitched voice again, muffled through walls. It sounded young, scared, and underneath it, someone trying to soothe, to calm. Rowan turned away, walking back to the desk. He poured himself a drink from a crystal decanter that had seen better days. The stopper chipped, the base scratched. Drank it in one swallow. There's someone else here, he said finally. My sister, Lyra. She's unwell. Unwell how? Unwell in a way that makes her a target. He set the glass down too hard. People know. They talk. And if they think this estate is weakened by her condition, they'll move against us, against her, so she stays hidden, safe. Safe, I repeated. Or locked away. His eyes snapped to mine, and for a second I saw real anger there. Be very careful, Miss Vance. Or what? You'll have me dragged back outside and dumped in the mud? I'm already here, already trapped. You want cooperation. You give me honesty. For a second, I thought he might actually throw me out. His hand clenched on the edge of the desk, knuckles white. A muscle jumped in his jaw. Then, slowly, he exhaled. Lyra's mind is fragile, he said. She has episodes, violent ones. She doesn't mean to hurt anyone, but she can't always control herself. I keep her here because it's the only place she's safe. From others, from herself. And you do this alone? I have staff, a physician who visits when I can afford it, which isn't often. He looked at me, and for the first time I saw something other than cold control in his expression. Exhaustion, desperation, the look of someone who'd been holding up a crumbling ceiling for so long he'd forgotten what it felt like to stand straight. But it's what I have. I should have felt pity. Maybe I did, somewhere under the anger and fear. But mostly what I felt was recognition. This wasn't just about debt. This was about two people trapped in a system designed to grind them down until there was nothing left. Fine, I said. I'll marry you. I'll play Duchess. But I'm not doing it blind. You'll have access to what you need. And Lara? She's not your concern. If I'm going to be family, she is. He studied me, and I saw the calculation behind his eyes, weighing risks, deciding how much trust he could afford. 1 month, he said finally. Prove you can handle this place, and I'll introduce you. Until then, keep your distance. It wasn't what I wanted, but it was something. Deal. He crossed the room, hand extended. I looked at it, scarred knuckles, long fingers, a ring with the blackthorn crest worn almost smooth, and shook. His grip was firm, cold, the hand of someone who didn't touch people often. Mrs. Carver will show you to your room, he said, releasing my hand. Dinner is at 7. Don't be late. Wouldn't dream of it. I turned to leave, then stopped at the door. One more thing, I said. That phrase above the front door, what does it say? Rowan didn't look up from the papers he'd already returned to. Aut viam inveniam aut faciam. Which means, I will either find a way or make one. I smiled despite myself. Sounds about right. Mrs. Carver led me up 3 flights of stairs to the east wing, which smelled like dust and disuse. The carpet runner was worn thin in the middle, the wallpaper peeling at the seams. Every few steps, I noticed more damage. Water stains on the ceiling, a cracked window pane patched with paper, a missing baluster in the railing. My room was at the end of a long hallway lined with doors that all looked the same. She unlocked it with a key she wore on a chain around her neck, pushed it open, and stepped aside. Dinner at 7, she said. Don't wander. Why not? Her expression didn't change. Because I said so. Then she was gone, her footsteps fading down the hallway. The room was bigger than I expected. A bed with a sagging mattress and threadbare curtains. A wardrobe missing one door. A wash basin with a crack running through the porcelain. A small writing desk with a broken leg propped up on a stack of books. The window overlooked the back gardens, or what had been gardens once. Now it was just overgrown weeds and broken statuary, stone cherubs with missing heads, a fountain choked with dead leaves. I sat on the bed. It creaked. This was it. This was my life now. I wanted to cry, to scream, to break something. Instead, I just sat there, staring at my hands. They were filthy, nails broken, rope burns on my wrists. My father's hands had been soft. Gentleman's hands, he'd called them. Never did a day of real work in his life. And look where it got us. I stood up, walked to the wardrobe, and found a dress that wasn't soaked through. It was old, out of fashion by at least 10 years, and smelled faintly of mothballs. But it was dry. I changed, braided my hair, splashed water on my face from the basin, wincing when the cold hit the cut on my cheek I'd gotten when one of the guards had shoved me into the wagon. Then I went exploring. Well, the estate was a maze. Hallways branched off into more hallways, staircases led to locked doors, and half the rooms I passed were empty or filled with furniture covered in sheets like ghosts. I counted 12 servants total, mostly older, moving slow, avoiding eye contact. No one stopped me. No one spoke. They just slipped past like shadows, carrying linens or trays or nothing at all. I found the kitchens first, A massive hearth that could have roasted 3 pigs at once, barely used. Copper pots hung from hooks, tarnished. Shelves stocked with staples, flour, salt, dried beans, but nothing fresh. No vegetables, no fruit, no meat except what looked like a single chicken hanging in the cold room. A cook stood at the counter, kneading bread with mechanical precision. She looked up when I entered, then quickly looked away. "Can I help you, miss?" "Just looking around," I said. "What's your name?" She hesitated. "Marta." "Nice to meet you, Marta. I'm Alara." "I know who you are." Of course she did. Word traveled fast in a place like this. "Is it always this quiet?" I asked. "His Grace prefers it that way." "And you? What do you prefer?" She blinked, startled, like no one had asked her opinion in years. Maybe no one had. "I prefer to keep my job, miss." "Fair enough." "How many people work here?" I asked. 14. Used to be 40. She went back to kneading. "Most left when the money ran out." "When was that?" 3 years ago, maybe 4. Hard to keep track. "And you stayed?" "Nowhere else to go." She shaped the dough into a loaf, hands practiced. "Besides, His Grace pays what he can, keeps a roof over our heads. That's more than most would do." I leaned against the door frame, watching her work. "What happened? To the money, I mean." "Not my place to say. But, you know." She was quiet for a moment, then, "His father, the old Duke, made bad investments, trusted the wrong people. By the time he died, there wasn't much left. His Grace has been trying to hold it together ever since, but," she shrugged, "you can't squeeze water from a stone." "How old was he when his father died?" 22, just back from university. Had plans, they say. Going to do something with law or trade, I don't remember. Then the old Duke dropped dead and all those plans went with him. 22, my age. "And his sister?" Marta's hand stilled. "That's definitely not my place." "I'm going to be family. I should know." "Then ask His Grace." She turned away, sliding the loaf into the oven. Conversation over. I moved on. I found the library next. 3 rooms of floor-to-ceiling shelves, crammed with books in a dozen languages. Medical texts, legal documents, histories of the region going back 200 years, philosophy, poetry, military strategy. A whole shelf dedicated to agriculture that looked well used, pages dog-eared and annotated in a tight, cramped hand I assumed was Rowan's. And tucked in the back corner, behind a moth-eaten curtain, a locked cabinet. I rattled the handle. Solid. Whatever was in there, he didn't want anyone seeing it. I pulled back the curtain and found more books. A whole section on mental illness, treatment methods, case studies. One volume fell open when I touched it, revealing underlined passages and notes scrawled in the margins. "Tried this. Didn't work. Made it worse." So he was trying to help her, trying to understand. "Find something interesting?" I spun around. Rowan stood in the doorway, coat off now, sleeves rolled up. He looked less intimidating like this, almost human. "Just browsing," I said. "That section is private." "You said I had access." "To what you need, not to everything." I gestured at the locked cabinet. "What's in there?" "Family documents, nothing that concerns you." Yet. He crossed the room, reaching past me to pull the curtain closed again. This close I could smell him. Soap, ink, something else. Smoke, maybe. Like he'd been standing near a fire. "You ask a lot of questions," he said. "You give very few answers." Get used to it. But he didn't move away. Just stood there, looking at me like he was trying to figure something out. "You're not what I expected," he said finally. "What did you expect?" "Someone more compliant." I laughed. Couldn't help it. "You thought I'd just show up and play nice? I thought you'd be too scared to do anything else." "Oh, I'm scared," I said. "I'm terrified. But I learned a long time ago that scared doesn't mean helpless." Something shifted in his expression. Not quite respect, but close. "Your father," he said. "What was he like?" The question caught me off guard. Why? Because I knew him, briefly. He came here once, about 8 years ago, made the deal, took the money, left. I was curious what kind of man he was. Charming, I said. The word tasted bitter. Funny. Terrible with money. Even worse with decisions. He loved me, I think. In his way. But he loved gambling more. I'm sorry. Don't be. He made his choices. I'm just paying for them. Rowan was quiet for a moment, then, for what it's worth, I didn't want this either. But you're doing it anyway. We do what we have to. He turned to leave, then paused. Dinner's in an hour. Try not to get lost. I found the main hall next, where portraits of dead blackthorns stared down from the walls. Generations of stern faces, rigid postures, clothes that screamed wealth and power. The frames alone probably cost more than my father's debt. I stopped in front of one near the end, a family portrait. A man who looked like an older, harder version of Rowan. A woman with kind eyes and a sad smile. And 2 children. A boy, maybe 10, already serious. And a girl, younger, laughing. Rowan and Lyra. That was the last good year. I turned. Mrs. Carver stood behind me, hands folded. What happened? I asked. The Duchess, their mother, got sick. Cancer. Took 2 years to kill her, and by the end she didn't even know who they were. She looked up at the portrait. The Duke never recovered. Started drinking, making bad deals, trusting people he shouldn't have. And Lyra... She trailed off. What about Lyra? She was 12 when it started. The episodes. They thought it was grief at first, but it got worse, violent. She hurt a maid once, didn't even remember doing it. After that, the Duke kept her locked away, said it was for her own good. Mrs. Carver's voice hardened. But between you and me, I think he was ashamed. And Rowan? Tried to fix everything. Always has. Always will, probably. She looked at me. You'll be good for him if you survive. Survive what? But she'd already turned away, disappearing back into the maze of hallways. I found a ballroom that hadn't been used in decades. Chandeliers wrapped in cloth, floors scuffed and dull, windows so dirty they barely let in light. I found a music room with a piano missing half its keys. I found a conservatory where every plant had died years ago, pots full of dust and desiccated roots. And then I found the locked wing. It was on the 3rd floor, past my room, behind a door with 3 separate bolts. Heavy bolts, the kind meant to keep something in, or someone. I heard the voice again, high, thin, singing something off-key. Lyra. I stood there listening. The song was sad, childlike, something about birds and cages and wanting to fly. She sings when she's calm, someone said behind me. I spun around. A man stood in the hallway, older, 60 maybe, with the kind of face that had seen too much. He wore a physician's bag over one shoulder. Dr. Brennan? He said, extending a hand. You must be Miss Vance. I shook it. Is she all right? As all right as she gets. He glanced at the door. It's been a good day. No episodes. Just singing. What's wrong with her? Honestly, I don't know. Could be any number of things. Trauma, an imbalance in the brain, something hereditary. I've tried medications, therapy, different treatments. Nothing works for long. He sighed. Rowan does his best, but what? But she needs more than one person can give. She needs specialists, facilities, treatment that costs money this estate doesn't have. He looked at me. You seem kind. That's good. She responds well to kindness. I'm not allowed to see her. Not yet. But you will be. And when you do, just be gentle. She's been through enough. He nodded and walked away, leaving me alone with the singing. I pressed my hand against the door. Lyra? I said softly. My name is Ilara. I'm going to be your sister soon. The singing stopped. Silence. Then, so quiet I almost missed it. Are you nice? I try to be. He's nice too, but he's sad. Are you sad? I thought about it. Yeah, a little. Me too. A pause. Will you sing with me? I don't know the words. That's okay. I'll teach you. And she started singing again, and I stood there in the hallway, humming along to a song I didn't know, sung by a girl I'd never met. But dinner was exactly as uncomfortable as I expected. The dining room was too big for two people. The table could seat 20, maybe more, but Rowan and I sat at opposite ends, a wasteland of polished wood between us. Candles flickered in tarnished holders. Silverware clinked. Neither of us spoke for the first 10 minutes. The food was plain but well prepared. Roasted chicken, potatoes, bread that was still warm from the oven. I ate because I was starving. He ate because it was expected. Finally, halfway through, he broke the silence. You explored today. Not a question. You said I had access. I did. Find anything interesting? Lots of empty rooms, a library that needs cataloging, a kitchen that could feed 3 times as many people if anyone bothered to use it. I paused. A ballroom that probably hasn't seen a party in 20 years, a conservatory full of dead plants, and a locked wing. His fork stopped halfway to his mouth. I told you, I know what you told me. I didn't go in. But I heard her, and I met Dr. Brennan. What did he tell you? That she needs help you can't afford. I set down my knife. That you're doing your best, but it's not enough. It never is. He put down his fork too, slow and deliberate. Anything else? Mrs. Carver told me about your mother. I'm sorry. His jaw tightened. I don't need your pity. You're good, because I'm not giving it. I'm just saying I get it, losing someone like that. It changes you. Your mother left. How did you... I asked around before they brought you here. Wanted to know who I was getting. He picked up his wine glass, swirled it. She walked out when you were 12, never came back. Your father raised you alone until he couldn't anymore. And now here I am. Here you are. We sat in silence for another minute. What did you mean earlier, I asked, when you said you're dangerous? He smiled, but there was no humor in it. I meant exactly what I said. Have you hurt people? Yes. Recently? Define recently. I leaned back in my chair. You're not making this easy. Nothing about this is easy, Miss Vance. He stood, pushing back his chair. I'm not a good man. I'm not kind. I do what needs to be done, and sometimes that means doing things that would make most people sick. So yes, I'm dangerous. And if you're smart, you'll remember that. Noted. He walked toward the door, then stopped. But I've never hurt Lyra, he said quietly, and I never will. That's the only promise I can make. What about me? He looked back, something unreadable in his eyes. I guess we'll find out. Then he was gone. That night I lay in bed listening to the house settle. Creaks, groans, the wind rattling windows that didn't quite fit their frames, and somewhere, faint but clear, that voice again. Singing. I got up, pulled on the robe I'd found in the wardrobe, heavy wool, too big, smelling like cedar. Walked down the hallway to the locked door, my bare feet silent on the worn carpet. This time I knocked. The singing stopped. Silence. Then, soft as a breath. Who's there? My name is Alara, I said. I'm new here. Another pause, then, are you the one who's supposed to marry him? Yes. Does he scare you? I thought about it. A little. A laugh, high and brittle, like glass breaking. He scares everyone, but he's not the one you should be afraid of. Who is? The man who's coming, the one who wants everything. My skin prickled. What man? Lord Halric. He visits sometimes. Pretends to be nice, but I can see it. The way he looks at everything like he's already counting it. Like it's already his. Her voice dropped to a whisper. He wants Rowan to fail. Wants this place to fall. And when it does, he'll take it all. How do you know? I hear things. People think I don't understand, but I do. I understand more than they think. A pause. You should be careful. He'll come for you too. Why? Because you're the key. The contract. If you're not really his wife, if something's wrong with the marriage, then the whole thing falls apart. And Halric knows that. I pressed my forehead against the door. Lyra, does Rowan know about this? He knows. He just doesn't know how bad it is. She started humming again, that same sad melody. You should sleep. Tomorrow's going to be hard. Why? But she didn't answer, Just kept humming until I finally went back to my room. And I didn't sleep at all. But morning came cold and gray. I dressed in another borrowed dress, this one dark blue, less moth-eaten than the first, and made my way downstairs. Mrs. Carver found me in the hallway. His Grace wants to see you, in his study. I followed her through the maze of corridors, trying to memorize the route. Left at the portrait of the man with the eye patch, right at the vase with the crack. Down the stairs past the window that didn't open. Rowan's study was smaller than the library, more personal. Papers everywhere, books stacked on every surface, a map of the estate pinned to one wall with notes scrawled across it, in that same cramped handwriting. He stood at the window, looking out at the overgrown gardens. "You spoke to Lyra last night," he said without turning around. Mrs. Carver heard you. She reports to me." He finally turned, and the look on his face was unreadable. "I told you to stay away." "She was singing. I just wanted, I don't care what you wanted. I gave you an order. I'm not one of your servants." "No. You're something I paid 8,000 marks for, which means you follow my rules." The words hit like a slap. I felt my face flush. "Is that what I am to you? Property? You're a solution to a problem, nothing more." "Then maybe you should have found a different solution." We stared at each other across the cluttered desk. "What did she tell you?" he asked finally. "About Lord Halrick, about the contract, about him waiting for you to fail." His expression didn't change. "And? Is it true?" Every word. He moved to the desk, shuffled through papers until he found what he was looking for. A letter. "This came yesterday, an invitation to visit him at his estate. Very polite, very friendly, and underneath all the pleasantries, a threat." "What kind of threat?" "The kind that says he knows things, about you, about your background, and if there's any irregularity in our marriage, any reason to challenge it legally, he'll find it and use it." He handed me the letter. "So tell me, Miss Vance, is there anything in your past that could be used against us?" I read the letter. It was exactly as he said, polite poison. "I don't know," I admitted. "My birth was registered. My father acknowledged me. But my mother, I don't know anything about her." "Not really. She never talked about her family." "That's a problem." "Why?" "Because the contract specifies a legitimate heir. If there's any question about your legitimacy, Halrick will use it to void the marriage. And if the marriage is void, the contract defaults, which means this estate reverts to creditors, who will sell it to the highest bidder." He leaned against the desk. "Who do you think that will be?" "Halrick?" "Exactly." I set down the letter. "So what do we do?" "We proceed as planned. Get married. Hope he doesn't find anything, and if he does..." He stopped. "What?" "We fight, we lie. We do whatever it takes to hold on to this place. Even if it means breaking the law?" "Especially then." I should have been horrified, should have run, but instead I felt something else, a strange kind of relief. Because for the first time since I'd arrived, someone was being completely honest with me. "Okay," I said, "then we fight." He looked surprised. "Just like that?" "Just like that. You're stuck with me. I'm stuck with you. Might as well make the best of it." For the first time I saw him almost smile. Almost. "You're either very brave or very stupid. Can I be both?" This time he did smile. Just a little. Just for a second. "We have 3 weeks until the wedding," he said. "That gives us time to prepare, to shore up defenses, to figure out what Halrick knows and how to counter it." He straightened. "Can you ride?" "A horse?" "Yes." "Good. Tomorrow we tour the estate. I need you to understand what you're fighting for." "And today?" "Today you learn the books. Mrs. Carver will show you the ledgers. If you're going to be Duchess, you need to know exactly how broke we are." "That bad?" "Worse." He walked me to the door, then stopped. "For what it's worth," he said quietly, "I'm glad you're not compliant." "Why?" "Because compliant won't survive what's coming." And with that cheerful thought, he sent me off to learn just how deep the hole really was. The ledgers were a nightmare. Mrs. Carver spread them across the table in what had once been the estate's accounting office. Now just another dusty room with peeling wallpaper and a broken clock. "Start with 5 years ago," she said. Work forward. You'll see where it all went wrong. I did. And she was right. 5 years ago, the estate had been profitable. Not wealthy, but stable. Good harvests. Reasonable rents. Tenants who paid on time. Then Rowan's father died and everything started to slide. Bad investments, loans called in, creditors circling. Rowan had paid what he could, sold what he could spare. Furniture, art, horses, jewelry, even some of the land. But it wasn't enough. And now, looking at the numbers, I understood why he'd agreed to the contract, why he'd accepted me sight unseen. Because without it, without the legal protection a marriage would provide, he'd lose everything in 6 months, maybe less. Do the tenants know? I asked Mrs. Carver. They suspect. But His Grace keeps paying the workers, keeps the roofs patched, keeps things running, so they stay loyal. How? Sacrifices everything else, goes without, sells anything that isn't nailed down, works himself half to death. She looked at me. You asked me yesterday why I'm loyal. That's why, because he could have abandoned all of us. Sold out, taken what little was left, and run. But he didn't. I closed the ledger. We need more income. From where? I don't know yet, but there has to be something. I stood, paced. What about the land? Can we lease it? Sell timber rights? Already tried. Halrick owns most of the surrounding property. He's blocked every deal. Of course he has. I spent the rest of the day in that room, going through every document, every contract, every scrap of paper that might hold an answer. And slowly, a picture started to form. Not a solution. Not yet. But the beginning of one. That night at dinner, I laid out what I'd found. The estate has 3 potential income sources we haven't fully exploited, I said. The quarry on the north boundary, the water mill, and the cottage industry, weaving, pottery, that kind of thing. Rowan set down his fork. The quarry's been dormant for 10 years. The mill needs repairs we can't afford. And the cottage workers left when we couldn't pay them. Then we start small, fix what we can with what we have, find workers willing to take payment in goods until we have cash. Barter, trade, build back slowly. You make it sound simple. It's not, but it's better than sitting here waiting for Halrick to take everything. He was quiet for a long moment. You've been here 2 days, he said finally, and you've already done more thinking about this place than most people do in a lifetime. I'm motivated. By what? Spite, I said honestly. I don't like losing, and I really don't like bullies. This time he actually laughed. A real laugh. Surprised and genuine. All right, he said. We'll try it your way, but if it fails, then we find another WPay. He nodded. Tomorrow, the estate tour. Be ready at dawn. I will be. I stood to leave, then paused. Rowan? Yes? Thank you for being honest with me. He looked at me, something soft flickering in those cold gray eyes. Don't thank me yet. You might not like what you find. But I was already starting to think I might. Dawn came cold and sharp, cutting through the fog that clung to the estate like a shroud. I stood in the courtyard, dressed in riding clothes Mrs. Carver had dug up from somewhere. Breeches that were too loose, boots that pinched, a coat that smelled like horses and old leather. Rowan was already mounted, sitting astride a black gelding that looked as lean and hard as he did. Can you actually ride? He asked. Or were you lying? I can ride. We'll see. A stable hand brought out a mare, gray, older, with kind eyes. I swung up into the saddle, ignoring the way my muscles protested. It had been 2 years since I'd been on a horse, but some things you don't forget. Rowan watched me settle, then nodded once. Keep up. He spurred his horse forward without waiting for a response. We rode out through the main gates, past the overgrown gardens, following a path that wound through what had once been parkland. Now it was mostly wild grass and scrub, dotted with trees that had grown unchecked for years. The sun was just breaking over the hills, painting everything gold and gray. The estate covers 1,200 acres, Rowan said, not looking back. Most of it's unusable now. Bad drainage, poor soil. The tenants work what they can, but it's not enough to sustain everyone. How many tenants? 43 families, about 200 people total. And they all depend on this place? They do. We crested a hill, and I saw the village spread out below. A cluster of cottages, a church with a sagging roof, a mill beside a stream that looked barely strong enough to turn the wheel. Smoke rose from a few chimneys. Not many. That's Thornfield, Rowan said, named after the estate. Most of the families have been here for generations. Their parents worked for my parents. Their grandparents worked for my grandparents. He paused. If this place falls, they fall with it. The weight of it hit me then. This wasn't just about Rowan or Lyra or even me. This was about 200 people who had nowhere else to go. No pressure, I muttered. Now you're starting to understand. We rode down into this village. People stopped what they were doing to watch us pass. An old woman hanging laundry, a man repairing a fence, children playing in the dirt. They didn't wave, didn't smile, just watched with the careful, wary eyes of people who'd learned not to hope for much. Rowan stopped at the mill. A man came out, 50-something, weathered face, hands stained with grain dust. Your Grace, he said, nodding to Rowan. Then to me, Miss. This is Thomas Brennan, Rowan said. Dr. Brennan's brother. He runs the mill. Or did, before it broke down. What's wrong with it? I asked. Thomas gestured to the wheel. Main axle's cracked. Needs replacing. But that means stopping work for a week, and we can't afford to lose a week's grinding. What if we worked at night? I asked. Fixed it in shifts so the mill could still run during the day. Both men looked at me. You'd need skilled labor, Thomas said slowly. And materials. Do we have either? We have men who know carpentry. As for materials, he scratched his jaw. There's timber in the North Woods, but that's on the edge of Halrick's land. He's claimed the logging rights. Has he logged it? Not yet. Then it's still ours until he does. I looked at Rowan. Right? A slow smile spread across his face. Technically. Then we take what we need, tonight. Thomas's eyes went wide. That's theft. That's reclaiming what's ours, I said. Halrick's been blocking every legitimate deal, so we stopped playing by his rules. Miss Vance, Ilara, Thomas corrected. If we get caught, Halrick will have legal grounds to... To what? We're already on the edge of losing everything. Might as well go down fighting. Rowan was quiet for a long moment. Then, do it, but carefully, small groups, no more than 5 men at a time, and only take what we need for the mill. Thomas nodded, though he still looked uncertain. Yes, Your Grace. We rode on. The rest of the morning was a blur of introductions and inspections. The smithy, where a young man named Peter worked alone, struggling to keep up with repairs. The weaving shed, empty except for 2 old women working ancient looms. The quarry, a gaping wound in the hillside, silent and abandoned. Everywhere we went, I saw the same thing, potential strangled by lack of resources. The quarry could work again, I said as we stood at its edge, if we had the equipment. We don't. What if we leased it, found a company willing to work it in exchange for a percentage of the profit? I've tried. No one wants to invest in a dying estate. Then we make it look alive. I turned to face him. We start small. Get the mill running. Get the weavers working again. Show that this place is still viable. Then we approach investors with proof. That could take months. Then we work fast. He studied me, and I saw something shift in his expression. Calculation. Respect. You're serious about this? I told you, I don't like losing. Neither do I. We rode back in silence, but it was a different kind of silence. Not hostile, almost comfortable. As we approached the manor, I saw a carriage in the courtyard. Expensive. Black lacquer with gold trim. Who's that? I asked. Rowan's jaw tightened. Halrick. My stomach dropped. What's he doing here? Making a point. We dismounted. Rowan handed his reins to a stable hand, then turned to me. Let me do the talking, he said quietly. Don't engage, don't react, just observe. I can handle... Ilara. His voice was sharp. This man is dangerous. He'll use anything you say against us, so please, just stay quiet. I wanted to argue, but the look on his face stopped me. Fine. We walked inside together. Lord Halrick waited in the drawing room, a space I hadn't seen yet, larger than Rowan's study, with windows overlooking the front drive. He stood with his back to us, examining a painting on the wall. Mid-50s, tall, well-dressed in a way that screamed money. When he turned, his smile was all teeth. "Rowan," he said warmly. "Good to see you." "Halric?" Rowan's voice was flat. "This is unexpected." "I was in the area. Thought I'd stop by." His eyes slid to me. "And you must be Miss Vance. I've heard so much about you." I nodded, but didn't speak. "Charming," Halric said. "Absolutely charming. You know, I knew your father, briefly, a delightful man, terrible card player, but delightful." The barb was subtle, but deliberate. I kept my face neutral. "What do you want, Halric?" Rowan asked. Rowan: "So direct. I've always admired that about you." Halric moved to the window, hands clasped behind his back. "I wanted to discuss the upcoming nuptials, make sure everything is in order, legally speaking." "It is." "Wonderful, because you understand, I'm sure, that there are certain requirements. Proof of identity, verification of lineage. All very tedious, but necessary." "We're aware." "Good, good." He turned back to us. "I've taken the liberty of engaging a legal clerk to review the contract, just to ensure there are no irregularities." "That's not necessary." "Oh, but I think it is. You see, I have a vested interest in this estate's stability. If the contract fails, if the marriage is found to be invalid, well," he spread his hands, "the creditors will need to be paid, and I've recently acquired several of those debts. So, in a sense, I'm protecting my investment." The room went cold. "You bought the debts," I said before I could stop myself. Halric's smile widened. "I did. Quite recently, actually. Amazing what people will sell when they think there's no chance of collection." Rowan's hand clenched at his side. "Get out. Now, no need for hostility. We're practically family." He moved toward the door, then paused. "Oh, and Rowan, I'll need those documents by the end of the week. Birth certificates, marriage records, anything that proves Miss Vance is who she claims to be. Otherwise, I'm afraid I'll have to raise concerns with the magistrate." "You'll have them." "Excellent." He tipped his hat to me. "Miss Vance, a pleasure. I'm sure we'll be seeing much more of each other." Then he was gone. The silence he left behind was crushing. "He knows," I said quietly. "He suspects." "What's the difference?" Rowan walked to the window, watching Halric's carriage roll away. "The difference is proof. He can suspect all he wants, but unless he can prove there's a problem with your identity, the contract holds. And if he finds proof, then we're finished." I sank into a chair. "My mother, I need to find her. She's the only one who can verify my birth." "Where is she?" "I don't know. She left when I was 12. No forwarding address, no letters, nothing." "What about other family? Aunts, uncles, grandparents?" I shook my head. "My father's family disowned him when he married her. And her family, I don't even know if she had one. She never talked about them." Rowan turned to face me. "Then we need to search the records, birth certificates, church registries, census data, anything that proves your mother existed and that you're her legitimate child. And if we can't find it, then we create it." I stared at him. "You mean forged documents?" "I mean we do whatever we have to." He crossed the room, crouched in front of my chair so we were eye level. "Alara, I need you to understand something. Halric will destroy us if he can. He'll take this estate, evict the tenants, sell everything that isn't nailed down. And Lyra," his voice cracked, "he'll have her committed to an asylum, locked away forever. I can't let that happen. So we fight dirty. We fight any way we can." I thought about it, about my options, about what was right versus what was necessary. "Okay," I said. "Let's start with the records. If we can find legitimate proof, we use it. If we can't, we'll deal with that when we get there." He nodded, standing. "There's a records office in the capital. 3 days' ride. I'll send someone. I'll go." "Absolutely not." "Why? You think I can't handle it?" "I think it's dangerous. If Halric has people watching, then I'll be careful. But this is my problem, my past. I should be the one to fix it." We stared at each other. "You're not going alone," he said finally. "Fine. Send someone with me." "I'll go." "You can't leave the estate, not with everything." "Mrs. Carver can manage for a few days, and I'm not letting you walk into potential danger without backup." His voice softened. "Please, just let me help." It was the pleas that got me. Okay, I said. We leave tomorrow. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about my mother, about the woman who'd walked out without explanation, who'd left a 12-year-old girl to figure out life on her own. I'd spent years being angry at her. Now I needed her help, even if she wasn't here to give it. Around midnight, I heard the singing again. I got up, pulled on my robe, and walked to Lyra's door. Can't sleep? She asked before I even knocked. How did you know I was here? I can hear everything in this house. The walls are thin. A pause. You're leaving tomorrow. For a few days. We have to find some documents. About your mother. How do you... I told you, I hear things. Her voice dropped. Be careful. Halric has people everywhere. They'll be watching. I will. Rowan likes you. I can tell. I leaned against the door. He barely tolerates me. That's how he shows he likes people, by tolerating them. She laughed, that high, brittle sound. He hasn't tolerated anyone in years, except me, and Dr. Brennan, and now you. Lyra, when I get back, will you let me meet you, properly? Silence. Then, maybe, if you promise not to be scared of me. I promise. Liar, everyone's scared of me. I'm scared of lots of things, but I don't let that stop me. Another pause. Okay, when you get back, but only if Rowan says it's okay. Deal. I went back to my room and finally managed to sleep. The next morning, we left before dawn. Just the two of us, 2 horses, and enough supplies for a week. Mrs. Carver watched us go with a face like stone, but I saw the worry in her eyes. The ride to the capital was brutal. 3 days of hard riding, sleeping rough, eating dried meat and stale bread. But it gave me time to talk to Rowan. Really talk. Tell me about your father, I said on the second day. Why? Because I want to understand. How did a duke lose everything? He was quiet for a long time. Then, he was a good man, a kind man, but he trusted the wrong people, made investments based on friendship instead of business sense. When my mother got sick, he fell apart, started drinking, making worse and worse decisions. By the time he died, there was almost nothing left. And you've been trying to save it ever since. Someone had to. What about what you wanted? What I wanted stopped mattering the day I became Duke. That's not fair. No, but it's reality. On the third day, we reached the capital. It was bigger than I remembered, crowded, loud, smelling like smoke and sewage, and too many people in too small a space. We found an inn, paid for a room, and collapsed. The next morning, we went to the records office. It was buried in the government district, a gray stone building that looked like it had been there since the city was founded. Inside, rows and rows of shelves stretched into darkness, packed with ledgers and files and documents going back centuries. A clerk greeted us, thin, bespectacled, the kind of person who lived for organization. How can I help you? We're looking for birth records, Rowan said, from about 25 years ago. Name? Elara Vance. The clerk nodded, consulting a massive index. And the parents? Father was Marcus Vance. Mother... I hesitated. I don't know her maiden name. The clerk looked up. You don't know your own mother's maiden name? She left when I was young. I see. He made a note. This may take some time. Please wait here. We waited for 2 hours. When he finally came back, his expression was apologetic. I'm sorry. I can't find a birth certificate under that name. My stomach dropped. What? There's a record of Marcus Vance's marriage, but it's incomplete. The bride's name is partially illegible, water damage, and there's no birth certificate for any child born to Marcus Vance in the relevant years. That's impossible, I said. I exist. I was born. I'm not saying you weren't. I'm saying there's no official record of it. Perhaps the birth was registered in a different district or under a different name. What about church records? Rowan asked. Those would be held by the individual churches. You'd have to know which one. We left the office in silence. This is bad, I said once we were outside. It's not ideal. Rowan, if there's no birth certificate, Halric can argue I'm not Marcus Vance's legitimate heir, that the contract is invalid. Then we find another way to prove it. How? He thought for a moment. Your mother. We need to find her. If she's still alive, she can testify. I don't know where she is. Then we start looking. We spent the next 2 days combing through records, visiting churches, asking questions in the neighborhoods where my father had lived. Nothing. It was like my mother had never existed. On the third night, sitting in the inn, I felt desperation starting to set in. What if we can't find her? I asked. Rowan looked up from the map he'd been studying. Then we consider alternatives. Like forgery? Like creative documentation. That's the same thing, is it? He leaned back. Look, the system is already rigged against us. Halric can buy debts, manipulate contracts, use his money and influence to crush anyone who gets in his way. All I'm suggesting is we level the playing field. By breaking the law. By surviving. I wanted to argue, but I couldn't, because he was right. There's one more option, I said slowly. Someone I could ask, but I don't know if she'll help. Who? My aunt, my father's sister. She and my father had a falling out years ago, but she might know something about my mother, about the birth. Where is she? Last I heard, she lived on the eastern coast, a town called Ravensport. Rowan pulled out the map. That's 4 days from here, 6 if the roads are bad. It's a long shot. It's the only shot we have. We left at dawn. The ride to Ravensport was worse than the trip to the capital. Rain most of the way, turning the roads to mud. We had to stop twice to rest the horses, losing time we didn't have. When we finally arrived, I barely recognized the place. It had been 10 years since I'd visited, and the town had shrunk. Half the shops were closed. The harbor was nearly empty. My aunt's house was on the edge of town, a small cottage with a garden out front. I knocked, heart pounding. The woman who opened the door looked older than I remembered, thinner, harder. Aunt Catherine, I said. She stared at me. Elara? Yes. What are you doing here? I need your help. She looked past me at Rowan, then back at me. You better come in. Inside the house was neat but sparse. She made tea while we explained the situation. When I finished, she was quiet for a long time. Your father was a fool, she said finally. I know, and you want me to help you clean up his mess. I want you to tell me the truth about my mother, about my birth, anything that might help. Catherine set down her cup. Your mother's name was Elena Thorne. She came from nothing, no family, no money. Your father met her in a tavern and married her 3 months later against everyone's advice. Was the marriage legal? As far as I know. And my birth? I was there when you were born. In this house, actually. Your mother went into labor early, and the midwife came here. I witnessed the birth, signed the registry. Then there is a record. There should be. But your father and I had a fight shortly after. He took you and your mother and left. I never saw any of you again. She paused. Until now. Do you know where the registry is? It should be with the local church, St. Michael's, on the north end of town, though I can't guarantee it's still there. We went to the church immediately. The priest was ancient, barely able to walk, but he remembered. Elena Thorne, he said slowly. Yes, I married her to Marcus Vance, and I christened their daughter, little Elara. Is there a record? Rowan asked. There should be. He led us to a back room filled with moldering books. It took an hour of searching, but we found it. A birth certificate. Signed by the priest, the midwife, and Catherine. Proof that I existed, that I was legitimate. I held it like it was made of glass. We have it, I whispered. Rowan smiled, actually smiled. We have it. But our relief was short-lived. As we left the church, I saw them, 3 men, watching from across the street. They weren't trying to hide. Rowan, I said quietly, I see them. Halric's men? Probably. We walked quickly toward the inn where we'd left the horses. The men followed. What do we do? I asked. We ride. Fast. We got to the inn, mounted up, and spurred the horses into a gallop. Behind us, I heard shouting, the sound of hooves. They were following. We rode hard, pushing the horses to their limit, but our pursuers were gaining. They're going to catch us, I shouted over the wind. Not if we lose them in the forest. Rowan veered off the main road, plunging into the trees. I followed, branches whipping at my face. Behind us, the pursuit continued. We rode for what felt like hours. Finally, the sounds of pursuit faded. We stopped in a clearing, horses heaving. Did we lose them? I asked. For now. I pulled out the birth certificate, checking to make sure it was still intact. It was. We need to get this back to the estate, I said. Before Halric, a horse burst through the trees. One of the men. He was alone, but he had a pistol. Hand over the document, he said. Rowan moved his horse between us. Not a chance. I'm not asking. The man raised the pistol, and Rowan charged. It happened so fast I barely registered it. Rowan's horse slammed into the man's mount, sending both to the ground. The pistol went off, the shot going wide. Rowan was on the man in seconds, fists flying. It was brutal, efficient, and over in less than a minute. The man lay unconscious on the ground. Rowan stood, breathing hard, blood on his knuckles. Are you all right? I asked. Fine. We need to go, now. We rode through the night, not stopping until we were miles away. When we finally made camp, hidden deep in the woods, I was shaking. That was necessary, Rowan said, wrapping his bloody hand. You could have killed him. I didn't. But you would have. If you had to. He looked at me. Yes, I should have been horrified. Should have been afraid. Instead, I felt something else. Gratitude. Because he'd protected me. Protected the one thing that could save us both. Thank you, I said quietly. Don't thank me for doing what needed to be done. I'm thanking you anyway. We sat in silence, the fire crackling between us. When we get back, he said, things are going to move fast. Halric will know we have the certificate. He'll try something else. We need to be ready. What do you think he'll do? I don't know. But whatever it is, it'll be worse than what came before. He was right. We had no idea just how much worse it would get. We rode into Blackthorn Manor 5 days later, filthy, exhausted, and clutching the birth certificate like it was the only thing keeping us alive, because, in a way, it was. The staff met us in the courtyard. Mrs. Carver's face was pinched tight, and I knew immediately something was wrong. What happened? Rowan demanded, dismounting. It's Miss Lyra, Mrs. Carver said. There was an incident 3 days ago. Rowan's face went white. What kind of incident? She hurt someone, one of the kitchen girls. Didn't mean to, but Mrs. Carver's voice cracked. Dr. Brennan's with her now. She's been sedated. Rowan was already moving, taking the stairs 2 at a time. I followed, the birth certificate still clutched in my hand. The locked wing was chaos. 2 servants stood outside the door, looking terrified. Inside, I could hear Dr. Brennan's calm voice, trying to soothe. Rowan unlocked the door and went in. I stayed in the hallway, uncertain. Come in, he called back. You might as well see. I stepped through. The room was larger than mine, but felt smaller, crowded with furniture that had been pushed against the walls. Lyra sat on the bed, Dr. Brennan beside her. She was thin, dangerously so, with dark hair that hung in tangles and eyes that seemed too big for her face. Beautiful, in a broken sort of way. When she saw Rowan, she started crying. I didn't mean to, she sobbed. I didn't mean to hurt her. She came in and I thought she was someone else and I just... Shh. Rowan sat beside her, pulled her into his arms. I know, it's all right. It's not all right. Nothing's all right. She looked past him at me. You're Alara. I am. You're prettier than I thought you'd be. Despite everything, I almost smiled. Thank you? Are you going to make him happy? The question caught me off guard. I'm going to try. She studied me for a long moment, then nodded. Good. He needs someone who tries. Dr. Brennan stood. She needs rest. The sedative will help, but she can't be left alone. Not right now. I'll stay with her, Rowan said. You need rest too. You look half dead. I'm fine. You're not. The doctor's voice was firm. Mrs. Carver can sit with her. You need sleep, real sleep. And you... He looked at me. You need food and a bath. Both of you are running on fumes. Rowan looked like he wanted to argue, but Lyra pushed him away gently. Go, she said. I'll be fine. Mrs. Carver tells better stories anyway. He hesitated, then stood. I'll be back in a few hours. We left the room. Mrs. Carver slipped past us to take her place by Lyra's side. In the hallway, Rowan leaned against the wall and closed his eyes. "This is my fault," he said quietly. "I shouldn't have left." "You had to. I should have been here." His eyes opened and they were full of something raw and wounded. "Every time I leave, something goes wrong. Every single time." "What happened to the girl? The one she hurt?" "Broken arm. She'll recover, but she's terrified now. Won't come anywhere near this wing." He pushed off the wall. "I need to see her, apologize, offer compensation. After you sleep." "I don't have time to—" "Rowan." I grabbed his arm. "You're no good to anyone if you collapse. Sleep. 3 hours. Then you can fix everything." He looked at me, and for a second I saw how young he was, how tired, how utterly overwhelmed. 3 hours, he agreed. I watched him walk away, shoulders slumped, carrying the weight of everything alone. Then I went to find the kitchen girl. Her name was Sarah. 16, mousy brown hair, arm in a sling. She was in the servants' quarters, packing her things. "I'm leaving," she said when she saw me. "I can't stay here, not after—" "I understand." I sat down across from her. "But before you go, I need to know exactly what happened." She hesitated, then told me. She'd been bringing dinner to Lyra's room. Had knocked, announced herself. But when she entered, Lyra had been in the middle of an episode, screaming about someone named Helena, convinced Sarah was this person. She'd grabbed Sarah's arm, twisted it. The bone had snapped. "She didn't know what she was doing," Sarah said. "I could see it in her eyes. She wasn't there, wasn't herself." "Who's Helena?" "I don't know, but she screams that name sometimes. When it's bad." I filed that away. "His Grace will compensate you for the injury, for your time, for whatever you need." "I don't want his money. I just want to leave." "I know, but take it anyway. You earned it. You earned." She nodded, eyes filling with tears. "I'm sorry. I know this makes things harder for you, for everyone. But I can't." "You don't have to explain. Take care of yourself." I left her there and went to my room, bathed, changed, tried to think. Helena. The name meant something, something important. I went to the library, started pulling books, family histories, genealogies, estate records. 3 hours later, I found it. Helena Blackthorne. Rowan and Lyra's mother. She'd died 15 years ago, cancer, according to the records. But there was something else. A note in the margin of one of the ledgers, written in a shaky hand. She didn't deserve this. None of them did. I was still staring at it when Rowan found me. "What are you doing?" he asked. "Research." I showed him the ledger. "Who wrote this?" His face went hard. "My father. Near the end, when he was drinking heavily." "What did he mean?" "I don't know. He said a lot of things that didn't make sense toward the end." He took the ledger from me. "Why are you looking into my mother?" "Because Lyra screams her name during episodes. I thought it might be important." He was quiet for a long moment. My mother's death broke something in Lyra. She was only 8. She saw things a child shouldn't see. The sickness, the pain, the slow deterioration. After she died, Lyra started having nightmares. Then the nightmares became waking episodes. By the time she was 12, she couldn't tell the difference between past and present anymore. That's when your father locked her away. He didn't know what else to do, and I was too young to stop him. Rowan set the ledger down. By the time I became Duke, the damage was done. She'd been isolated for years. It made everything worse. What if... I stopped. What? What if it wasn't just grief? What if there's something else, something that happened that triggered it? Like what? I don't know, but your father's note, it sounds like guilt. My father felt guilty about everything by the end, but I couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to the story. The next morning, I woke to shouting. I ran downstairs in my nightgown to find Rowan in the entry hall, facing 3 men in official-looking clothes. "You can't do this," Rowan was saying. "We have a warrant," one of them replied, "signed by the magistrate. We're authorized to inspect the premises and verify the legitimacy of your marriage contract. The wedding hasn't even happened yet, which is why we're inspecting now, to prevent fraud." "On whose complaint?" The man smiled thinly. "Lord Halric has raised concerns about the contract's validity. We're here to investigate." I stepped forward. "I have proof of my identity, my birth certificate, signed and verified." We'll need to examine it. I ran upstairs, grabbed the certificate from where I'd hidden it, and brought it down. The men studied it for a long time. Too long. This appears to be in order, one finally said. However, we'll need to verify the signatures. That will take time. How much time? Rowan asked. A week, perhaps 2. The wedding is in 8 days. Then you'd better hope our investigation concludes favorably before then. He handed the certificate back. In the meantime, we'll need access to the estate. Financial records, contracts, correspondence, everything. Absolutely not. Then we'll obtain a more comprehensive warrant. Your choice. Rowan's jaw clenched. Fine. Mrs. Carver will assist you. The men spent the next 3 days tearing through the estate, going through every room, every document, every scrap of paper. They questioned the staff, examined the books, measured rooms, and counted furniture. It was a violation, a calculated humiliation, and there was nothing we could do to stop it. On the 4th day, they left. But the damage was done. The staff was terrified. The tenants were whispering, and Halrich's message was clear. He could reach us anywhere. We need to move up the wedding, I said that night at dinner. Rowan looked up. What? They're stalling, looking for any excuse to delay or invalidate. If we marry now, before they finish their investigation, the contract becomes binding. They can investigate all they want, but they can't undo a legal marriage. The bans haven't been read. We need 3 weeks. We need to survive. Everything else is details. He stared at me. You're serious? Completely. We find a magistrate willing to marry us immediately. Skip the formalities. Make it legal and binding before Halrich can stop us. That's... He stopped. Actually brilliant. I have my moments. We found a magistrate the next day. An old man who'd known Rowan's family for years and owed them a favor. He agreed to perform the ceremony in 2 days, in the manor's chapel. No guests. No celebration. Just the legal minimum to make it binding. But the night before the wedding, everything fell apart. I was in my room, trying on the dress Mrs. Carver had found. Old, yellowed, but still beautiful, when I heard the scream. Lyra. I ran to her wing. The door was open and inside was chaos. Lyra was backed into a corner, holding a broken mirror shard, blood running down her hand. Dr. Brennan was trying to talk her down. Mrs. Carver stood frozen by the door. He's here, Lyra was saying over and over. He's here. I can feel him. Who's here? Dr. Brennan asked gently. The man who killed her. The man who killed my mother. The room went silent. Lyra, Rowan said from behind me, voice carefully controlled. Put down the glass. He's coming for us. For all of us. We have to run. There's no one here. You're safe. I'm not safe. None of us are. She looked at me and her eyes were wild. You need to leave. Before he kills you too. Who killed your mother, Lyra? I asked quietly. I don't know his name, but I saw him. The night she died. I saw him in her room. He gave her something, made her drink it, and then she stopped breathing. Rowan's face had gone ashen. That's impossible. She died of cancer. She did. But he made it faster. I heard him say it. This will end the suffering. And then she was gone. Who was it? I pressed. I don't remember his face, just his voice. And he's back. I heard him yesterday, talking to the men who came, the investigators. She started crying. Please believe me. Please. Dr. Brennan finally got the glass away from her, wrapped her bleeding hand, gave her something to calm her. When she was finally asleep, we gathered in the hallway. She's confused, Dr. Brennan said, mixing memories, creating connections that don't exist. What if she's not? I asked. Then we'd be talking about murder, and that's... Insane? Rowan's voice was cold. Is it? My mother went from sick to dead in less than a day. The doctors said it was sudden, unexpected, but none of them questioned it. You think someone killed her? Mrs. Carver whispered. I think my father thought someone did. That note in the ledger, she didn't deserve this. He knew something was wrong. But who would... I stopped. Halrich. He wasn't Lord Halrich then. His father was still alive. But he was here. I saw it in the visitor's log. He came to the estate 3 times that year. The last time was 2 days before your mother died. The pieces were falling into place. Horrible, impossible pieces. He killed her, Rowan said slowly, to destabilize the estate, to create the conditions for my father's downfall. It's been his plan all along. We can't prove it, Dr. Brennan said. Even if it's true, even if Lyra's memory is accurate, it's the word of a woman everyone knows is mentally unstable against a lord. It would never hold up. Then we don't go through legal channels, I said. They all looked at me. We expose him publicly, at the wedding, in front of witnesses, force him to respond. He won't come to the wedding, Rowan said. Yes, he will. If we invite him, if we make it seem like we're capitulating. That's suicide. That's the only way we win. I looked at each of them. He's been playing the long game, waiting for us to fail. What if we give him what he wants, make him think he's won, and then we turn it around on him? How? I didn't have an answer yet, but I was working on it. The next morning we sent the invitation, a beautifully written note asking Lord Halrick to attend our wedding as a gesture of goodwill between neighboring estates. He accepted immediately. The wedding was scheduled for noon. By 10, I was shaking. Mrs. Carver helped me into the dress. It fit better than I expected, though it smelled like mothballs and old dreams. You don't have to do this, she said quietly. Yes, I do. For the estate, for the tenants, for all of it, including him. She nodded. He's a good man. Broken, but good. You'll be good for each other. If we survive the day. If. Rowan met me in the chapel. He wore black, of course, but it was a different black, formal, pressed, almost like armor. You look... He stopped. Terrified. Beautiful. The word hung between us. The magistrate began the ceremony. A handful of staff watched, and at the back, smiling like a cat with a mouse, stood Lord Halrick. We got through the vows, through the exchange of rings, simple bands, nothing fancy, and then, just as the magistrate was about to pronounce us married, Halrick stood. I object, he said. The chapel went silent. On what grounds? The magistrate asked. On the grounds that this woman is not who she claims to be. He walked forward, pulling papers from his coat. I have evidence that Alara Vance is not the legitimate daughter of Marcus Vance, that her mother, Elena Thorne, was already married when she wed Marcus, making their marriage void, making Miss Vance illegitimate, making this entire contract fraudulent. My blood turned to ice. Rowan grabbed the papers, read them. His face went white. This is a lie, he said. It's public record, verified by 3 separate clerks. Elena Thorne married a man named James Caldwell at age 17. There's no record of divorce, which means her marriage to Marcus Vance was bigamous, which means Miss Vance has no legal claim to anything. Halrick smiled. I'm afraid this wedding cannot proceed. The magistrate looked uncertain. If this is true, it's not, I said. My voice came out stronger than I felt. My mother's first husband died. I saw the death certificate. Did you? Where is it now? I didn't have an answer because I'd never seen it, had never thought to look for it. This is a setup, Rowan said. You fabricated this to uphold the law? To prevent fraud? Halrick's voice rose. You're trying to trick your way into maintaining control of this estate through an illegal marriage. I'm simply ensuring justice is served. Justice. Rowan's voice was deadly quiet. You want to talk about justice? Let's talk about my mother. Halrick's smile faltered. You were here the week she died. You gave her something to end her suffering. My sister saw you. Your sister is insane. She's lucid enough to remember a murderer. The word hung in the air like a bomb. Halrick's face went red. You're accusing me of murder based on the ravings of a madwoman? I'm accusing you of a 15-year campaign to destroy my family, of killing my mother to destabilize my father, of buying up our debts to force this exact situation, of trying to steal everything we have through legal manipulation. Rowan stepped forward, and I'm saying it in front of witnesses. Witnesses who will testify that you're desperate and delusional. Halrick turned to the magistrate. This wedding cannot proceed. I'll be filing formal complaints with the court. This estate will be seized within the month. He turned to leave. and Lyra stepped into the doorway. She was dressed in white, hair brushed, eyes clear, more lucid than I'd ever seen her. "You killed my mother," she said. Halric stopped. "You came to her room, told her the medicine would help. But it was poison. I saw you pour it. I heard her choking, and I watched you walk away while she died." The testimony of a madwoman means nothing. Maybe not in court, but in the court of public opinion. She smiled, and it was sharp as broken glass. "I may be mad, but I'm also the daughter of a duke, and people will listen. No one will believe you. They will when I tell them everything else I know, about the bribes you paid my father's advisors, about the documents you forged, about the debts you bought under false pretenses." She pulled out a folder I hadn't seen before. "I may be locked away, but I'm not stupid. I've been collecting evidence for years, and now I have enough to bury you." Halric's face had gone from red to white. "Where did you—" "Doesn't matter. What matters is that if you proceed with challenging this marriage, I go public with everything. Every dirty secret, every crime, all of it." She handed the folder to Rowan. "Your choice." The silence was crushing. Finally, Halric spoke. "This isn't over." "Oh, I think it is," Lyra said, "unless you want to spend the next decade in court fighting me, and him, and her." She gestured to me. "We're family now, and we protect our own." Halric looked at each of us, calculation clear on his face. Then, without another word, he walked out. We stood frozen until we heard his carriage pull away. Then Lyra collapsed. Rowan caught her before she hit the ground. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I can't. It's too much." "You did perfectly," he said, voice breaking. "You were perfect." Dr. Brennan rushed forward, but Lyra waved him away. "Finish the ceremony," she said, "before he comes back with reinforcements." The magistrate looked terrified, but nodded. 5 minutes later, we were married. Rowan kissed me. It was quick, perfunctory, the kiss of two people sealing a contract, but his hand shook when he touched my face. We helped Lyra back to her room. She was already slipping back into confusion, the lucidity fading like morning fog. "Did I help?" she asked. "You saved us," I told her. "Good." Her eyes fluttered closed. "Tell Rowan I love him." "Tell him yourself when you wake up." But she was already asleep. We left her with Dr. Brennan and Mrs. Carver. In the hallway, Rowan leaned against the wall and slid down to the floor. I sat beside him. "We won," I said. "For now." "You don't think he'll give up?" "I know he won't." He looked at me. We backed him into a corner, humiliated him in front of witnesses. "He'll come back harder, meaner. Then we'll be ready." He laughed, bitter and tired. "You keep saying that." "Because I keep meaning it." We sat in silence for a long moment. "The folder Lyra had," I said. "Where did she get it?" "I have no idea. But knowing her, she's been collecting information for years. She sees and hears more than people think." "Is it enough to actually hurt him?" "I don't know. I haven't looked yet." We went to his study, opened the folder. Inside were documents, dozens of them, contracts with forged signatures, ledgers showing bribes, letters proving collusion. Everything we needed to destroy Halric, everything he'd kill to keep hidden. "This changes everything," Rowan said, "or it gets us killed." He looked at me, and for the first time since I'd met him, I saw something like hope in his eyes. "Well," he said, "we're married now. Might as well go down fighting together." I was about to respond when the window shattered. Glass exploded inward. Rowan tackled me to the ground as something flew past where my head had been. We looked up. An arrow. Buried in the wall behind us, with a note attached. Rowan pulled it free, read it. His face went hard. "What does it say?" I asked. He handed it to me. 4 words, written in precise script. "This isn't over. Run." And we heard the sound of horses. Many horses. Coming up the drive. "Get away from the window," Rowan said, pulling me toward the door. We ran into the hallway. Mrs. Carver appeared at the top of the stairs, face pale. "His Grace, there are men outside, at least 20, armed." "Lock down the house," Rowan ordered. "Bar every door and window. Get everyone to the central wing, now." She disappeared, shouting orders. The sound of hooves grew louder, then stopped. I heard voices, commands. Rowan grabbed my hand. Come with me. We ran through the maze of hallways to a section of the house I'd never seen. He pulled back a tapestry, revealing a narrow door. Behind it, stairs leading down into darkness. Where does this go? The old armory, from when the estate had its own garrison. He lit a lantern from a nearby sconce. We fortify here. If they break through, we make our stand. We descended into a stone room filled with weapons. Most were ancient, swords rusted in their scabbards, pikes with rotted shafts, armor that would crumble if you touched it. But in the corner, locked in a metal cabinet, were modern rifles, 4 of them. You know how to shoot? Rowan asked, pulling them out. My father taught me, before everything fell apart. Good. He handed me one, then grabbed ammunition. We're not going to make this easy for them. A crash echoed through the house. They were breaking in. We ran back upstairs. The staff had gathered in the main hall, 14 terrified people looking to Rowan for direction. Anyone who can fight, stay with me, he said. Everyone else, take shelter in the wine cellar. There's a hidden passage that leads to the north woods. If things go badly, use it. Your Grace, Thomas said, stepping forward, we're not leaving you. Thomas, no. The mill worker's voice was firm. You've kept us fed when you had nothing, paid us when the money ran out, protected us when Halric tried to force us off our land. We're not running now. 6 other men stepped forward, including Peter the blacksmith, his father who worked the stables, and 2 of the tenant farmers I'd met on the estate tour. Rowan's jaw worked. All right, but if I say run, you run. Understood? They nodded. Another crash, closer this time, the sound of wood splintering. They're in the east wing, Mrs. Carver said. How many entrances? I asked. 4 main ones, plus the servants' doors. Maybe a dozen total. We can't defend them all. We don't have to. Rowan moved to the center of the hall. We let them in, channel them to where we want them. Then we show them what happens when you attack a blackthorn. He started giving orders. Barricades here, defenders there, create bottlenecks, force them to come at us in small groups instead of all at once. It was brilliant, brutal, and our only chance. We had maybe 5 minutes before they reached us. I grabbed Rowan's arm. The folder, Lyra's evidence. We need to hide it. Where? I thought fast. The locked cabinet. In the library. No one knows what's in there but you. He ran, came back 90 seconds later empty-handed. The first man came through the main entrance just as we finished the barricades. He was big, armed with a club. Behind him, I could see at least 10 more. Lord Halric wants the documents, he shouted. Hand them over and no one gets hurt. Tell Halric he can go to hell, Rowan called back. The man smiled. Wrong answer. They charged. What followed was chaos. Pure, brutal chaos. The first wave hit our barricade and we opened fire. The sound was deafening in the enclosed space. 2 men went down. The others scattered, looking for cover. Reload! Rowan shouted. We did, hands shaking. The second wave came from the side entrance. Thomas and his group met them with improvised weapons, fire pokers, broken chair legs, anything they could grab. It was messy, desperate, but they held. A third group tried the windows. Peter was there with a kettle of boiling water from the kitchen. The screams when he threw it were horrible, but we were outnumbered, and they kept coming. We need to fall back, I shouted over the noise. To where? The central wing, like you said, narrow corridors, easier to defend. Rowan nodded. Everyone move! We retreated in stages, covering each other, leaving obstacles behind, making them fight for every foot. By the time we reached the central wing, 3 of our people were injured. Nothing fatal, but enough to slow us down. We barricaded the entrance, caught our breath. This won't hold forever, Thomas said, bleeding from a cut on his forehead. It doesn't have to. Just long enough. For what? For help to arrive. I stared at Rowan. What help? I sent a rider to the county magistrate before the wedding, told him we expected trouble. If he got through, that's a big if. It's all we have. The attack on the barricade started 30 seconds later. They weren't subtle about it, just threw themselves against the furniture we'd piled up, over and over. Wood cracked, nails shrieked. Inch by inch, they were getting through. We're going to die here, one of the farmers said. He was young, maybe 20. Not if I can help it, I said. Then to Rowan, I have an idea, but you're going to hate it. Tell me, I go out there, offer to negotiate. While they're focused on me, you and the others flank them through the servants' passages, trap them between us. Absolutely not. It's the only way to... I said no. They'll kill you the second you step out there. Not if I'm valuable. Not if I have something they want. I pulled the birth certificate from where I'd hidden it inside my dress. This is what Halric needs to invalidate the marriage. If I offer it in exchange for safe passage for everyone else, they won't honor that deal. I know, but it'll buy us time, distraction, and that's all we need. He grabbed my shoulders. Alara, listen to me. I am not letting you. You don't get to let me do anything. We're partners now, remember? I pulled free. Either we try this or we all die in this hallway. Your choice. The barricade shuddered. Something heavy hit it from the other side. Damn it, Rowan said. Fine, but if anything goes wrong, you'll rescue me heroically, I know. I walked to the barricade, climbed to the top where they could see me. I want to talk to whoever's in charge, I shouted. The pounding stopped. A man stepped forward, older than the others, better dressed, probably Halric's lieutenant. What do you want? To make a deal. I have the birth certificate, the evidence, everything Halric wants. I'll trade it for safe passage for everyone in this house. Why would we deal when we can just take it? Because I'll burn it first. And then you'll have to explain to Halric why you failed. He considered this. Show me. I held up the certificate. Let him see it was real. All right, he said. Bring it here. You walk free. Everyone walks free. Fine. Everyone. I didn't believe him for a second, but I climbed down from the barricade anyway. Rowan grabbed my arm. Don't do this. Get into position. When I give the signal, I thought fast. When I drop the certificate, that's when you move. What signal? You'll know it when you see it. I kissed him, quick, hard, the kiss of someone who might not get another chance. Then I walked through the gap in the barricade. The men parted to let me through. I could feel their eyes on me, calculating, predatory. The lieutenant held out his hand. The certificate. Everyone leaves first. That wasn't the deal. It is now, he smiled. You're in no position to renegotiate. Neither are you, because you're surrounded. His smile faltered. What? I dropped the certificate, and the servants' passages on both sides burst open. Rowan and the others poured out, weapons raised. The attackers spun, confused, trying to figure out which way to face. In the chaos, I dove for the certificate, grabbed it, rolled behind a column. Someone grabbed me, hauled me up. The lieutenant, face twisted with rage. You little... A rifle shot. The man's shoulder exploded. He dropped me, screaming. Rowan was there, pulling me away, firing again. Go, he shouted. Get to Lyra. Protect her. What about you? I'll handle this. Go. I ran. Up the stairs, through the hallways, to Lyra's wing. The door was open. My blood went cold. Inside, Dr. Brennan lay unconscious on the floor. Mrs. Carver was tied to a chair, gagged. And Lyra was gone. I cut Mrs. Carver free. She gasped, pulling the gag away. They took her. 2 men. Said Halric wanted insurance. Which way? The front entrance, 5 minutes ago. I ran. Down the stairs, through the main hall where the fighting was still raging, out the front door. A carriage was pulling away. I could see Lyra in the window, pounding on the glass. I didn't think, just acted. Grabbed a horse from the courtyard, mounted, spurred it forward. The carriage had a head start, but horses were faster. I pushed mine hard, closing the distance. The driver saw me coming, whipped the horses. The carriage lurched forward. I pulled alongside, jumped. The impact nearly broke my ribs. I clung to the side of the carriage, fingers scrabbling for purchase. The door opened and a man leaned out, trying to shove me off. I grabbed his arm, twisted, used his own momentum to pull myself up. We struggled. He was bigger, stronger, but I was desperate. My hand found something hard on his belt, a knife. I pulled it free. Didn't think. Just stabbed. He screamed, fell back, fell out. The carriage swerved wildly. I climbed inside. Lyra was huddled in the corner, terrified. It's me, I said. It's Alara. You're safe. We're not safe. We're never safe. We will be. I promise. I climbed to the front. The driver tried to fight me. I hit him with the knife handle. Once, twice. He slumped. I grabbed the reins, pulled hard. The carriage slowed, stopped. Behind us, I could see riders. Rowan and the others coming fast. I helped Lyra out, held her while she shook. "You came for me," she said. "Of course I did. We're family." Rowan reached us, dismounted, pulled us both into his arms. "Is it over?" Lyra asked. "Not yet," he said, "but soon." We rode back to the manor together. The fighting had stopped. Halrick's men had fled or surrendered. We'd won, barely. But we'd won. The house was a disaster. Broken furniture, blood on the floors, walls scarred with bullet holes. But everyone was alive. Injured, exhausted, traumatized. But alive. "We need to move fast," I said, gathering everyone who could still stand. "Halrick knows we have his evidence. He'll come back with more men, legal backing. We need to use what we have before he can stop us." "How?" Thomas asked. "We go public. All of it. The murder, the fraud, the bribes. Everything Lyra collected. We send it to every newspaper in the region, to the magistrate, to the King's Council. We make it impossible to ignore." "That will make us targets," Dr. Brennan said. "We're already targets. At least this way we fight back." Rowan looked at the gathered faces, scared, hopeful, waiting. "Do it," he said. We spent the next 3 hours making copies of everything. The documents, the ledgers, the letters. Mrs. Carver wrote out Lyra's testimony in her own hand, verified by Dr. Brennan. I wrote an account of the attack. Rowan wrote a formal accusation. By dawn, riders were leaving for every major city within a week's ride, carrying identical packets, sealed with the blackthorn crest. "This is either going to save us or destroy us," I said, watching the last rider disappear into the morning mist. "Then we'd better hope it's the former," Rowan said. We waited. 3 days, then a week. No word. No response. The tenants started to drift back to their homes. The staff began cleaning up the damage. Life tried to return to normal, but the silence was deafening. On the 8th day, a carriage arrived. Official, bearing the magistrate's seal. My heart sank. This was it. Either vindication or arrest. The magistrate stepped out. An old man, weathered and stern. "Your Grace," he said to Rowan. "Lady Blackthorn." A nod to me. "I've come to inform you that Lord Halrick has been arrested, charged with conspiracy to commit fraud, attempted murder, and bribery of public officials." I couldn't breathe. "The evidence you provided was compelling, verified by 3 independent investigators. Lord Halrick is currently being held pending trial." He paused. "There's also the matter of the older accusation, the death of the former Duchess." "And?" Rowan's voice was carefully controlled. "We're exhuming the body, testing for poisons. If Miss Lyra's account is accurate, Lord Halrick will face murder charges as well." Lyra had been listening from the doorway. She stepped forward now, chin high. "It is accurate," she said. "Every word." The magistrate looked at her for a long moment. "Then we'll need your formal testimony. Are you willing to provide it?" "I am." "Even knowing it will be challenged, that Lord Halrick's lawyers will try to discredit you?" "Let them try." Her voice was steady, clear. "I know what I saw, and I'm not afraid anymore." The magistrate nodded. "Very well. I'll send someone to take your statement." He turned back to Rowan. "Your marriage has been verified as legal. The contract is binding. The estate remains yours." Relief crashed over me like a wave. "Thank you," Rowan said. "Don't thank me. Thank your wife. If she hadn't pushed this, hadn't made it impossible to ignore, we might never have investigated." He tipped his hat. "You're fortunate, both of you." When he left, the 3 of us stood in the courtyard. Rowan, Lyra, and me. "We won," Lyra said quietly. "We did." "What happens now?" Rowan looked at me. "Now we rebuild. Everything he tried to destroy. We make it stronger." "And Halrick?" "He'll rot in prison, or hang. Either way, he's finished." But I couldn't quite believe it. Not yet. The next 2 weeks were a blur. Investigators came and went. Depositions were taken. The newspapers ran wild with the story. A corrupt lord, a murdered duchess, a conspiracy spanning 15 years. We became notorious. The tenants started coming back. Not just ours. Tenants from neighboring estates who'd been squeezed by Halrich's schemes. They wanted work, protection, hope. We gave it to them. The mill was repaired, the quarry reopened, the weavers returned to their looms. Slowly, painfully, the estate started to breathe again. And Lyra began to heal. The episodes didn't stop. They probably never would, but they became less frequent, less violent. Dr. Brennan found new treatments. I spent time with her, learning her rhythms, understanding her triggers. She started painting. Brilliant, haunting images that she said came from her dreams. We hung them in the gallery. Visitors came to see them, to see her. She became known not as the mad girl in the tower, but as an artist, a survivor. 1 month after Halrich's arrest, I found Rowan in the library. He was staring at a letter. "What is it?" I asked. "The exhumation results. They found arsenic, in high concentrations, more than enough to kill." "So it's true. He murdered your mother?" "Yes." He set down the letter. "The trial starts in 2 weeks. They want us to testify, all of us. Will you?" "I have to, for her, for everything he took from us." He looked at me. "Will you stand with me?" Every step. The trial was brutal. Halrich's lawyers tore into every piece of evidence, called Lyra delusional, called me an opportunist, called Rowan a desperate man grasping at conspiracy theories. But the evidence held. The arsenic, the forged documents, the testimony of people he'd bribed who now turned against him to save themselves. The jury deliberated for 6 hours, guilty, on all counts. Halrich was sentenced to hang. I didn't go to the execution, neither did Rowan, but Lyra did. "I needed to see it end," she said when she came back. "Needed to know he couldn't hurt anyone else. And now I can start living again." 3 months after the trial, something impossible happened. People started investing in the estate, buying goods from the quarry, commissioning work from the weavers. The Blackthorn name, once synonymous with failure, became synonymous with resilience. We paid off the remaining debts, hired more staff, expanded operations. And slowly, the house stopped feeling like a tomb. One evening, I found Rowan in the gardens. Not the overgrown mess they'd been when I arrived, but actually gardens now. We'd spent weeks clearing them, replanting, rebuilding. "I've been thinking," he said. About how this started. You, me. A contract neither of us wanted." He took my hand, "and how it's become something else entirely." "What is it now?" "I don't know, but I'd like to find out." He turned to face me. "I married you because I had to, but if I had the choice now, I'd marry you because I wanted to." My throat tightened. "Rowan, I'm not good at this, at feelings, at saying what I mean, but you—" He stopped, started again. "You're the bravest person I've ever met. You came here with nothing and fought like you had everything to lose. You saved Lyra. You saved the estate. You saved me. We saved each other." "Yeah, we did." He smiled, actually smiled, full and genuine. "So what do you say? Want to stay married? For real this time?" I kissed him. Longer this time. Deeper. The kiss of someone who'd found home in the last place she expected. "Yes," I said. "I do." Behind us I heard applause. The staff had gathered, Mrs. Carver wiping her eyes, Dr. Brennan grinning, Thomas and Peter and the others, and Lyra standing in the doorway, radiant. "About time," she called. "I was starting to think you'd never figure it out." We laughed. All of us. The sound echoing through the gardens, through the house, through the estate that had been dying and was now, finally, coming back to life. It wasn't perfect. It would never be perfect. But it was ours. And that was enough. The applause faded, but the warmth didn't. We stood there in the garden, Rowan and I, surrounded by people who'd become family, and for the first time since arriving at this crumbling estate, I felt something like peace. It didn't last. Mrs. Carver approached, her expression apologetic. "Your Grace, Lady Blackthorn, there's someone here to see you. Says it's urgent." "Who?" Rowan asked. "A woman. Won't give her name, but she says—" Mrs. Carver hesitated. "She says she's Alara's mother." The world tilted. "That's impossible," I said. "My mother left 15 years ago. She's In the drawing room, Mrs. Carver finished. Waiting. Rowan's hand found mine. Do you want me to come with you? I did, desperately, but this was something I needed to face alone. Give me 10 minutes, I said. If I'm not back, come find me. The walk to the drawing room felt like walking to my own execution. My mother, here, after everything. She stood by the window, back to me, older than I remembered, thinner, gray streaking through hair that used to be dark as mine. Hello, Ilara, she said without turning around. Why are you here? I saw the newspapers, about the trial, about you. She turned then, and I saw her face, still beautiful, but worn. I had to come, had to make sure you were all right. Now you care, 15 years too late. I know, her voice cracked. I know I have no right, no excuse, but I need you to understand why I left. I don't want to understand. I want you to leave. Please, just listen, then I'll go, I promise. Against my better judgment, I sat. She did too, perched on the edge of the chair like she might bolt any second. Your father wasn't a good man, she began. I know that. He gambled, he lied, he hurt me. The words came out flat. Not at first. At first he was charming, wonderful, everything I thought I wanted. But after you were born, things changed. He drank more, got angry, started hitting me when he lost at cards. My stomach turned. I never saw, because I hid it. From you, from everyone. I made excuses. Wore long sleeves, smiled through the pain. She looked at her hands. But I couldn't take it anymore, so I left. I thought you'd be safer without me, that he'd focus his anger on me and leave you alone. He did leave me alone, because he didn't care about anything except his next game. I'm sorry. I should have taken you with me, but I had nothing, no money, no family. I was barely surviving myself. Tears streaked her face. I told myself you were better off, that he'd at least keep you fed and sheltered, that someone would look after you. No one did. I looked after myself. I know. And you grew up strong. Stronger than I ever was. She wiped her eyes. When I saw what you'd done, how you'd fought Halric, saved this estate, survived everything, I was so proud and so ashamed. I wanted to stay angry, wanted to hold on to the rage I'd carried for 15 years, but looking at her, broken and guilty and desperate for forgiveness, all I felt was tired. Why did you really come here? I asked. To give you this. She pulled an envelope from her bag. Your real birth certificate, the original. I've been carrying it since I left, afraid your father would destroy it or use it somehow. But you need it now. For the marriage, for the estate, for proof. I opened it. There it was. My name, my mother's name, Elena Thorne, my father's name, the date, all of it official and legal. The certificate we found in Ravensport was real too, but this is the original, filed with the Capitol Registry. No one can challenge it. She stood. That's all I came to give you. I'll go now. Wait. She stopped. I didn't know what I wanted to say. Forgiveness felt too big. Understanding felt impossible, but maybe... Thank you, I said, for this, and for trying to protect me. Even if it didn't work out the way you planned. She sobbed. Actually sobbed. That's more than I deserve. Probably, but it's all I can give right now. It's enough. More than enough. She moved toward the door, then paused. Your husband. He seems like a good man. He is. Then hold on to him, and don't make my mistakes. She smiled, sad and broken. Be brave enough to stay. Then she was gone. I sat there for a long time, holding the birth certificate, trying to process what had just happened. Rowan found me eventually. Everything all right? He asked. I don't know. Ask me in a year. He sat beside me, read the certificate. This changes things, makes everything ironclad. Good. I'm tired of fighting. Then we won't. Not anymore. He pulled me close. We'll focus on building instead. That became our mission. Building, rebuilding, making something lasting. The next 6 months were a blur of progress. The quarry expanded operations, hiring 20 new workers. The weavers formed a cooperative, selling their goods as far as the capital. The mill ran day and night, grinding grain for 3 neighboring counties. Money started flowing in. Real money. Enough to repair the house properly, to hire more staff, to pay back everyone we owed, and then some. The tenants' cottages got new roofs. The church got a new bell. The school that had closed 5 years ago reopened, and people noticed. Nobles who'd once sneered at the Blackthorn name started sending invitations, business proposals, offers of partnership. We turned down most of them, but the ones that made sense, that would help the estate and the people who depended on it, those we accepted. Slowly, methodically, we built something that couldn't be taken away. But the biggest change was Lyra. Dr. Brennan found a specialist in the capital, a doctor who'd studied cases like hers, who understood that her condition wasn't possession or madness, but something medical. Trauma compounded by an imbalance that could be treated. The new treatments didn't cure her, but they helped. The episodes became rarer. When they did happen, they were shorter, less violent. And between them, Lyra started to emerge. The real Lyra. Sharp, funny, talented beyond measure. Her paintings drew attention from collectors. A gallery in the capital offered to show them. We hesitated, worried it would be too much, too fast. "Let me try," she said. "I've spent 15 years hiding. I want to be seen." The exhibition opened on a cold November evening. Every painting sold within an hour. Critics called her a revelation, a voice of raw emotion and unflinching honesty. Lyra stood in the center of the gallery, overwhelmed and radiant. "I did it," she whispered to me. "I'm not just the mad girl anymore." "You never were. You just needed the world to catch up." That night, walking back to the carriage, a man approached. Well-dressed, nervous. "Lady Lyra, I'm James Whitmore. I wanted to tell you, your work is extraordinary, truly." Lyra blushed. "Thank you. I was wondering, would you consider a commission? I have a space that needs something bold, something honest." They talked for 20 minutes. He was a professor, taught literature at the university, had kind eyes and a gentle manner. Rowan leaned close to me. "Is she making a friend?" "Yes." "Should we be worried?" "Only if we want to be overprotective." We weren't. Lyra was 23 years old. She deserved a life beyond these walls. Over the next months, James became a regular visitor, bringing books, discussing art, making Lyra laugh in ways I'd never heard before. "He's courting her," Mrs. Carver said one afternoon, watching them walk in the gardens. "I know. His Grace is going to have opinions. His Grace can keep them to himself. This is Lyra's choice." But when James formally asked for permission to court Lyra, Rowan surprised me. "Treat her well," he said simply. "That's all I ask." "I will. I swear it." "And if you don't?" Rowan's smile was sharp. "Well, I've gotten very good at making problems disappear." James paled. "Understood." After he left, I hit Rowan's arm. "You scared him." "Good. He should be scared. That's my sister." "Your sister who can make her own decisions." "I know. Doesn't mean I have to like it." But he was smiling. Actually smiling. Spring came. The estate bloomed, literally and figuratively. The gardens we'd restored became famous. People traveled from across the region to see them. We started offering tours, charging admission. The money went toward a fund for tenant families who needed help. The house filled with noise, laughter, life. One evening, I found a letter on my desk. No return address, but I recognized the handwriting. My mother. Inside, just a few lines. I saw the newspapers again. Saw what you've built. I'm so proud of you. I hope someday you can forgive me completely. But if not, I understand. Be happy, Alara. You've earned it. I showed it to Rowan. "Are you going to respond?" he asked. "I don't know. Part of me wants to. Part of me thinks it's too late. It's never too late. Not if you want to try." I thought about it for a week. Then I wrote back. Not forgiveness, not yet, but acknowledgement. A door left open instead of slammed shut. Maybe someday we'd walk through it. Maybe not. But it was there. Summer brought a surprise. I'd been feeling ill for weeks, tired, nauseous. Dr. Brennan examined me, then smiled. "Congratulations, Lady Blackthorn. You're pregnant." The word hit like lightning. What? About 3 months along, I'd say. Due in late winter. I couldn't breathe, couldn't think. Just felt terrified, thrilled, overwhelmed. Rowan found me in the library an hour later, staring at nothing. Alara? What's wrong? I'm pregnant. He went completely still. You're pregnant. With a baby. Our baby. When did you... How did you... He sat down hard. We're having a baby. Apparently. Silence. Then he started laughing. Deep, genuine laughter that I'd rarely heard from him. What's so funny? I asked. 2 years ago, I was convinced this place would die with me, that everything my family built would crumble to nothing, and now, he pulled me close. Now I'm married to the most stubborn, brilliant woman I've ever met. My sister is happy, the estate is thriving, and we're having a baby. He kissed my forehead. It's perfect. Absolutely perfect. It's not perfect. The roof still leaks in the east wing. Half the staff is overworked. The quarry needs new equipment. We're barely breaking even most months. Exactly. Perfect. I laughed despite myself. You're insane. Probably. But you married me anyway. The pregnancy was difficult. Morning sickness that lasted all day. Exhaustion that made me want to sleep for a week. Mood swings that terrified the staff. But Rowan was patient, gentle. Brought me tea and bread when I couldn't keep anything else down. Sat with me during the worst nights. Never complained when I snapped at him for breathing too loudly. Lyra was thrilled. Started planning the nursery immediately, painting murals on the walls, bright, cheerful things, birds and flowers and scenes from fairy tales. What if it's not a girl? I asked. Then a boy who likes birds and flowers. What's wrong with that? Nothing, just checking. Winter came. The baby grew. The estate prepared. Mrs. Carver organized everything. Dr. Brennan brought in a midwife from the capital. Rowan paced the hallways like a caged animal. And on a cold January night, our daughter was born. She was tiny, red-faced, screaming loud enough to wake the dead. She's perfect, Rowan said, tears streaming down his face. She's loud, I said, exhausted and delirious and so in love it hurt. Just like her mother. We named her Helena, after his mother, after the woman whose death had started everything. Lyra held her niece with shaking hands. She's so small. You were small once too, Rowan said. I don't remember being this small. You were, and just as loud. Helena became the heart of the house. Everyone doted on her. Mrs. Carver knitted blankets. Peter made a cradle. The tenants sent gifts. And Rowan transformed. The cold, calculating man I'd met 2 years ago disappeared completely, replaced by someone who sang lullabies off-key and made funny faces and would drop everything to hold his daughter. You're going to spoil her, I said one afternoon, watching him rock her to sleep. Good. She deserves to be spoiled. She's 3 months old. She doesn't know the difference. I do. 1 year after Helena's birth, we threw a party. Not a grand ball. We weren't those kind of nobles. But a celebration. For the estate. For the people. For everything we'd survived and built. The entire village came. Hundreds of people crammed into the house and gardens. There was food, music, dancing. Thomas gave a speech about how the estate had saved his family. Peter talked about having work and dignity again. The tenant farmers raised glasses to the Duke and Duchess who'd fought for them, and then Lyra stood up. 2 years ago, I was locked in a room, afraid of everything, including myself. Her voice was steady, clear. Now I'm standing here, in front of all of you, because 2 people refused to give up. On this place. On our family. On me. She raised her glass. To Rowan and Alara, the most stubborn people I've ever met. Here, here, someone shouted. Everyone drank, cheered, celebrated. Later, when the party was winding down, Rowan and I stood on the terrace, Helena asleep in my arms, looking out over the estate. Do you remember what you said the first day? He asked, when I told you about the family motto? I will either find a way or make one. Yes, we made one. Together. We did. He wrapped his arm around my shoulders. No regrets? I thought about everything, the fear, the fighting, the moments when I'd been certain we'd fail. None, I said. Not one. Good, because I'm going to need your help with something. What? The northern counties are struggling, bad harvests, corrupt officials. I was thinking we could expand, help them the way we helped here. I stared at him. You want to take on more? I want to build something bigger than just us, something that outlasts us. A legacy. I looked down at Helena, at her tiny perfect face, at the future sleeping in my arms. All right, I said, let's build a legacy. 5 years later, we'd done exactly that. The Blackthorn estate wasn't just one property anymore. It was a network. 7 estates, all operating on the same principles. Fair wages, tenant protections, investment in people over profit. It wasn't perfect. There were setbacks, arguments, failures. But it worked. And other nobles noticed. Some mocked us, called us radicals, idealists, fools. Others asked how we did it, how we'd turned dying properties into thriving communities. We told them, shared everything, because the goal wasn't just to save ourselves, it was to change the system. Lyra married James in a quiet ceremony, moved to the capital but visited often. Her art became famous across the continent. She used the money to fund schools and hospitals. Helena grew up fearless, curious, running through the halls her father had once walked alone. Learning from everyone, servants, tenants, nobles, it didn't matter. She's going to be trouble, Mrs. Carver said one day, watching 5-year-old Helena negotiate with the cook for extra cookies. She's going to be extraordinary, Rowan corrected. Same thing. One evening, 10 years after I'd first arrived at the estate, I found myself back in the drawing room where everything had started. Rowan was at his desk, working on proposals for expanding the school system. Do you ever think about how different things could have been? I asked. He looked up. What do you mean? If I'd refused the contract, if you'd turned me away, if we'd given up any of the dozen times we could have. Every day. He stood, crossed to me. And every day, I'm grateful we didn't. Me too. He pulled me close. After all these years, his arms still felt like home. I love you, he said. I don't say it enough, but I do. You changed everything. We changed everything, together. Together, he agreed. Helena burst through the door, covered in mud and laughing. Mama, Papa, you have to see what Peter made. It's a whole mechanical bird that actually flies. Where have you been? I asked, eyeing the mud. The quarry. Peter said I could help test it, and it crashed into the pond, and I had to fish it out. But it's okay, because I think I can fix it if I just... Rowan caught her before she could run off again. Bath first, mechanical bird second. But no buts, go, now. She huffed but went, leaving muddy footprints across the carpet Mrs. Carver had just cleaned. She's exactly like you, Rowan said. She's exactly like us. Heaven help everyone else. We stood there, watching our daughter disappear up the stairs, listening to the sounds of a house full of life. This was what we'd fought for. Not just survival, not just wealth or status or power, but this, family, community, hope, a legacy that would outlast us all. And as I looked at Rowan, at the man who'd started as a stranger and become my partner in everything, I knew something with absolute certainty. We'd found our way, and it was beautiful. Years later, when people asked how we'd done it, how we'd taken a dying estate and turned it into a model for others, I always told them the same thing. We refused to accept what we were given. We fought for what we deserved, and we never ever gave up on each other. That was the real legacy, not the buildings we restored or the businesses we built, but the proof that even in the darkest circumstances, even when everything seemed lost, courage and stubbornness and love could rewrite any fate. We'd been traded, trapped, and treated like pawns in someone else's game, and we turned it all into something worth keeping, something worth fighting for, something that would last.